Hello and welcome to another historic video. Today we're gonna find out what Arclight Phoenix has been up to all these years since it rotated out of Standard. It's now joined by Demilich as another win condition in this blue-red spells deck. Demilich, a 4 mana 4/4 in Historic compared to the 4/3 paper version for some reason, costs blue mana less to cast for each instant and sorcery spell we've cast this turn. So with 4 or more we can potentially cast it for free, and we can even cast it out of our graveyard if we're willing to exile 4 instant and or sorcery cards from our graveyard while casting it. And then when Demilich eventually gets a chance to attack, we can also exile up to 1 instant or sorcery from our graveyard that we can then copy and pay the mana to cast the copy. So we do not get to cast it for free, but it's still a nice source of card advantage. And then the Phoenix also wants us to cast a lot of spells so we can get it back out of the graveyard at 3 or more. So this one we're hoping to mill or discard from our hand in order to get it back. And we can do so as early as turn 2 in this deck, thanks to Manamorphose being a free cantrip that will replace itself in terms of mana and also draws a card. And we also have the Noxious Revival, which we can cast for free if we're willing to pay 2 life to put target card from any graveyard on top of its owner's library. So we can use it to get back some key spells from our own graveyard, but it can also double up as pseudo graveyard hate when facing a Reanimator deck, for instance. Our opponent goes to target a creature from their graveyard, and we can now respond by putting it on top of their deck to fizzle their reanimation spell and force them to draw a useless card. So Noxious Revival has also been pretty important since Reanimator decks are quite popular in best of 1. And then rounding out the deck, we've got a ton of cantrips, since we want to be able to chain together a lot of spells for both Demilich and Phoenix, and they all also help fill the graveyard in some manner. Consider with a Surveil 1 and then draw, Thought Scour can mill 2 and then draw, and then Looting can draw 2 and then discard 2, so this is perfect for discarding Arclight Phoenix to get it back. And then we also have Ponder, which pairs well with some of our shuffle effects, or even with our own Thought Scour and Consider, which can then put some unwanted cards into our graveyard. And by filling the graveyard, we're also enabling Treasure Cruise to potentially draw 3 for a single blue mana if we can exile enough cards out of our graveyard. Of course, a bit at odds with the ability from Demilich to cast it out of the graveyard, but usually we'll keep Demilich in hand so we can prioritize drawing cards with Treasure Cruise. And then our interaction takes the form of some burn spells like Chain Lightning, which can deal 3 at sorcery speed, can also target our opponent. Then Lightning Axe can deal 5 damage to a creature at instant speed and doubles up as a discard outlet for Arclight Phoenix. And finally, Demon Inferior, we can reliably cast for a single blue during our turn if we've drawn enough cards, and then if the owner of target non-land permanent puts it into their library second from the top or on the bottom. So we can also maybe get rid of some artifacts and enchantments which our burn spells wouldn't be able to interact with. And then the mana base has Prismatic Vista as the only legal fetch land that enters untapped early in the format, so we can not only shuffle after casting a Ponder, for instance, but also fill the graveyard to enable Delve on Treasure Cruise. So then we want plenty of basics, 3 islands and 1 mountain in this case, and then Spire Bluff and Steam Vents as reliable untapped dual lands, and then a Fiery Islet can also maybe be sacrificed later to draw a card if we're flooding out a bit. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play. We have a lot of spells, missing the creatures, but hopefully we'll draw into them. So how to sequence. I do have a Ponder, so I'll probably cast that next turn with a fetch. And for now, Thought Scour just to fill the graveyard seems fine. But if we're playing a matchup where we specifically need a card as soon as possible, I could see the advantage of a Consider first. Opponent with a Gilded Goose out of black-green, so maybe a Yawgmoth combo deck. Milled some good ones. And another Thought Scour. So yeah, seems like a good turn to Ponder. And do we want any of these? Lightning Axe would give me removal. But again, it feels like we need to find a creature to get a threat on the battlefield. Although Treasure Cruise is also tempting, since we can fill the graveyard quite a bit. So maybe I still draw the Treasure Cruise here, and then we'll shuffle with Prismatic Vista. And then we'll likely Thought Scour again to set up Treasure Cruise. Opponent with a Birthing Ritual, that's a good one. Something we might want to deem inferior if we get the chance. And the Young Wolf, so yeah, part of the Yawgmoth combo. Sack the Young Wolf, get it back with Undying. And they found Samwise. Alright, so they have the Cauldron Familiar combo instead, perhaps. So yeah, Samwise with a sack outlet and Cauldron Familiar can go infinite. Oh, I cast the wrong spell, although Demilich was a fine draw. I meant to Thought Scour. So I will draw the Demilich. Take my draw, find a Chain Lightning, which is excellent. So yeah, we can do some damage. So I'll start with the Chain Lightning, actually. Take out Samwise, because Sam has to go. And then now I can Treasure Cruise for 1 mana. I guess I wouldn't be able to cast the Demilich, but can maybe cast the Phoenix. Or rather get it back. If we draw a red source. Alright, so in that case I can also just deem inferior the Birthing Ritual and call it a day. And then we're in a pretty decent spot to cast a Lich next turn. Yeah, without a Noxious Revival or a Manamorphose, we're not casting the Lich until turn 4. So then probably gonna kick things off with a Thought Scour here. Could also mill my opponent if we want to get rid of the Birthing Ritual. Which is not a bad idea. Just will make it harder to cast a Treasure Cruise. So how about I start with a Ponder. See what's up. Alright, so Phoenix, Looting, Noxious Revival. So Phoenix we want to discard, which I can also using a Lightning Axe, or I can cast a Looting. So yeah, for now I'm fine declining the shuffle. And then I'm still tempted to Thought Scour my opponent here instead of myself, although it's a lot of cards wasted potentially. It's just that the Birthing Ritual is kind of tough for us to interact with. Unless we want to maybe get back a Deem Inferior with a Lich next turn. They'll still get 1 use out of it. Maybe that's okay. So then, for now, let's Thought Scour myself. See what else I draw. Prismatic Vista. Can also get a Mountain. And then I can either Looting or Axe. Upside of Looting is that I can maybe draw another Phoenix. So then I may want to Treasure Cruise first for 1 mana. So I improve my odds of drawing another Phoenix. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I did not, but I did draw another Lich. And now a Phoenix, so we'll get back double Phoenix and get to cast double Lich. So that's still a very good turn for us. And a 1, and a 2. And then it's not going to be too difficult to interact a bit more next turn with a cheap Deem Inferior. Can also maybe get it back with a Demilich. And I don't think it's very likely for the opponent to combo off from here, with only 2 or maximum 3 mana available. So they're just going to replay the Birthing Ritual, and they're looking for another Samwise, perhaps. But they still only go infinite if they also have a Sacrifice Outlet to repeatedly sacrifice the Cauldron Familiar and then get it back, sacrificing the food token they generate. And Birthing Ritual's only 1 sacrifice per turn, so they might have an Umbral Color Zealot in the deck somewhere. Now they do have a lot of random creatures that can jump the Demilich, so it's not going to have an easy time actually dealing damage, and now with Double Apprentice, the damage can start adding up as well. Alright, so we've got some work to do. Can kick things off with Ponder or Consider, or even Manamorphose. Make double blue, or blue-red is still fine. Find a Thought Scour. So Ponder. Find another Demilich. All these cards are fine. So then we want a Lightning Axe and Demon Inferior. Maybe double Apprentice. Although Demon Inferior on the Ritual is also tempting. I guess we can still use the Demilich to do that. So let's Demon Inferior one Apprentice first. Before we Lightning Axe the second one. Thought Scour can probably go to combat, attack, and then I can go for Manamorphose plus Demon Inferior, or just Demon Inferior and another Lightning Axe. Let's go Demon Inferior and a Lightning Axe. And then I'll axe the wolf. And Demon Inferior the Ritual. And then we still have another Demilich as a nice follow-up. Opponent has to block at least one creature. So if they have a Chord of Calling, they're not going to be able to convoke as easily. So I'm thinking we probably have this locked up. And yeah, our opponent agrees. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a functional hand. Got some cantrips, alluding to discard Phoenix, some removal. Start with keeping up Thought Scour, since we don't know what we're pondering for yet, since we don't know what our opponent is playing. And milling myself with Thought Scour is always good. I see, opponent on a hexproof deck, so can expect a bunch of auras. Yeah, this could actually be a bad matchup, since we don't have much in the way of interaction, other than maybe Demon Inferior, which we found to bounce their aura. So for now I'll ponder. Find another land and Thought Scour. So let's see, next turn I can looting, or I can looting now. So then next turn we want to cast 3 spells. I can make it 2 cantrips to set up a 1-mana Demon Inferior. So then I can looting now, basically draw all the remaining cards. That's fine. Discard the Phoenix and can make it Chain Lightning, unless they play a Light Pause, then I might regret it, but then we can always Demon Inferior it. So then next turn we should be able to get back the Phoenix at least. And opponent starting with an Ethereal Armor and an Audacity. Okay, so can play Spire Bluff. Probably want to ponder first, so I can maybe Thought Scour to get rid of unwanted cards, or actively mill another Phoenix. This seems unnecessary. Would rather give myself the chance of milling another Phoenix or finding a Demilich. So we'll shuffle. Okay, Manamorphose is worth casting if we expect to maybe cast a Demilich this turn. Blue, blue. And yeah, I can even Treasure Cruise here. And then still maybe Demon Inferior afterwards. So keep the Phoenix. Keep the looting, probably makes sense. Alright, found a Phoenix and another Demon Inferior, so at least we've got a little bit more interaction. And then Ethereal Armor probably represents more damage overall. So we're getting one Phoenix back. Next turn I can maybe go for another. But yeah, Demilich would have been the more exciting draw here as a way to repeatedly cast Demon Inferior. Opponent does have the Sheltered by Ghosts. So we can also bounce that. Another Bogle is fine. Alright, so upkeep, do I want to do anything? Probably fine to take my draw step. Manamorphose was excellent. So now I could even Manamorphose, looting and still Demon Inferior, discarding another Phoenix, and freeing the one underneath the Sheltered by Ghosts. And who knows, maybe we'll even find a Demilich in the process. So this makes blue-red. Another Phoenix, even better. So play the untapped land. Flashback looting. Discard double Phoenix. And bounce your Sheltered by Ghosts. So then I'm attacking for 9 here. So we're possibly outracing the hexproof deck. Staying back is an option, but then we once again will have to deal with Sheltered by Ghosts in 2 turns. Not impossible for them to have lethal. All that glitters is a lot of damage, so we fall to 1. But now I just need to find a burn spell to close it out, make sure not to deal myself 1 damage. So Consider and looting give me the most looks at a Chain Lightning. There's only 2 left in the deck, I believe, so don't have incredibly high odds. I guess there's also the chance of finding another Phoenix. So I'll start with Consider. Islet is not good enough. Another Consider. Alright, let's try again. Thought Scour is just random. So then now I found another blue source. I think we still start with a looting. Treasure Cruise, okay, that's a bigger redraw. So I can cast a Treasure Cruise using the island and then still maybe draw Chain Lightning. Seems fine to me. Or we can Ponder, which technically also looks at 3 cards. And we can always decide to shuffle. And Demilich would not do it. Demon Inferior doesn't necessarily do it, probably doesn't. Yeah, let's just Treasure Cruise here. Get rid of all our lanes. Something along these lines. Come on, Chain Lightning. Demilich. So then now my only hope is Thought Scour milling another Arclight Phoenix. Could also mill the Sheltered by Ghosts. But yeah, they still have Trample here, so... I mean, I guess I could survive. First strike does mean I lose all my creatures. So I don't think that's the play. I think we go for a Hail Mary Phoenix. And we actually got there. Wow. Drew the Chain Lightning, but that's too late. But yeah, milling the Arclight Phoenix is game. Oof, incredibly close one here against a hexproof deck. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We've got a decent hand, good mix of spells, bit of card draw, some interaction, a Phoenix to discard and get back. Something like a Manamorphose could make things more exciting to maybe get back a Phoenix on turn 2. For now, I can Ponder and maybe upkeep Consider to get rid of one of the top cards. And for now, I guess a Thought Scour is fine. Can fill the graveyard for Treasure Cruise. And then I'll wait and see if I want to draw the Demon Inferior or not. But I will set an upkeep stop. Opponent with a Black Leaf Cliffs usually points towards Reanimator. So then our only real interaction is finding Noxious Revival, which can also target stuff in their graveyard. So yeah, Demon Inferior, not quite what I need, even though it can maybe answer one of their bigger creatures if they don't have some immediate impact. So maybe I still draw the Demon Inferior and then kick things off with a Consider milling the land. Although I guess land 3 is not terrible. So yeah, maybe we want to try and set up for a turn 3 Phoenix. I don't think the 2 damage is going to really matter. So yeah, then I can first Consider and then maybe Thought Scour after if needed. Although keeping those to actually get back the Phoenix is also reasonable. Spire Bluff now points towards Izzet Charm potentially as a counterspell or as a way to draw discard. So yeah, tricky spot. I think I just draw my lands and then pass, since we don't have Faithless Looting, has a guaranteed way to discard the Phoenix. The more land drops we hit, the more likely I can actually get the Phoenix back. Alright, opponent does nothing with 2 mana. So then probably kick things off with Thought Scour. There's a looting, and there's another looting. Okay. So then now I probably want to hang on to the Consider as a way to trigger the Phoenix next turn. Or we can cast it to set up Treasure Cruise. Although knowing about Izzet Charm, I don't really want Treasure Cruise getting countered. So then, yeah, let's just take my draw. Manamorphose is excellent, although also very likely to get countered. But might still be worth a try. Alright, they let it resolve, so then we want blue-red. Cast a looting, which can discard the Phoenix. Find another Manamorphose, which I wouldn't be able to cast now. And then I can still Consider potentially milling another Phoenix. Could have started here in case I draw into the Phoenix, so I have a way to discard it with a looting afterwards. Spire Bluff would enter tapped, so it's not a priority. Can fuel the Treasure Cruise, but Demilich was what I was looking for here. So I can go to combat, get back Phoenix, and then maybe second main go Treasure Cruise into Demilich. But yeah, we're still mostly hoping to draw Noxious Revival in case our opponent just combos next turn. So we get to hit for 3. Yeah, I think we forced the issue with the Treasure Cruise here. So then, what do I keep in the graveyard? I can keep 3 cards in graveyard here, I believe. Or no, 2 cards in graveyard. So probably 1 looting, and then something useful for Demilich, like a Ponder, which can dig pretty deep. To maybe find the Noxious Revival. Even if it gets countered, we still have a free Demilich. Did not find the Revival. Did find a Phoenix. And our opponent's still not casting anything. But we'll see here. Possible they just don't have a discard outlet, but are now going to discard to hand size. And yeah, there we see Galta discarded. So they could potentially end the game on the spot next turn. My only interaction again is finding a Noxious Revival. So that's what I have to dig for, or I can try and present lethal if I maybe have a way of discarding the Phoenix and double Chain Lightning. Then we have 6, 10, 16 would still be 1 damage off. And the opponent's lands are painless. Although most reanimation spells do cost life. So that could still be worth pursuing. So let's go Manamorphose. Now they might fight over it, since they already have Galta in the graveyard. go red. And then I could Lightning Axe my own Phoenix just to discard another one. Let's actually start with a Consider. Another Looting could also work. Still no Noxious Revival, did find a land. So Lightning Axe and Phoenix can go. And then Chain Lightning my opponents. I'll be getting back Phoenix to attack for opponent paying the mana for Chain Lightning to redirect it, fair enough. But yeah, it still happened. So then we can hit for 10, put him to 4, and then get back another Chain Lightning to put him to 1. Or I can try casting the Treasure Cruise to still find a Noxious Revival. The reanimation spell could be 3 mana, in which case I have to hope it's a Shock land or some sort of Pain land, so then putting them to 1 is still worth it. Or, as I've said, I can Treasure Cruise to dig for Revival, which could be another out. Yeah, we're not super likely to get there, but there's only 33 cards left, 2 Revivals. So, yeah. Not impossible odds. But, yeah, I think we just go for the Chain Lightning here. And then if they have Painless Land into Necromancy, we could still lose. Let's find out. Alright, that's a Painless Land and that's a Necromancy. So, let's see how we die. That's double Atraxa and a Saint Elenda. But I do still have another Chain Lightning in hand. So I might still be able to burn them out. I guess if Saint Elenda answers the Demilich, then it's going to be a bit trickier. But yeah, I guess our opponent kept the game interesting. So, bunch of spells in hand, Sire of Insanity, another nice reanimation target. But yeah, no free spells as far as I can see. Fate's Fetters is too bad. So they did find removal for Demilich that also gains them 4 life. So they're back up to 5. Now I can still maybe Deem Inferior the enchantment. And then figure out a way to attack and cast double Chain Lightning before blockers. So that's my plan. Or I can, I guess, just Deem Inferior Atraxa, and then Phoenix can cross a finish line. That might be more straightforward. So then Treasure Cruise draws 3. So yeah, we can delve. Would not have drawn the Noxious Revival as it turns out. And then we can still Deem Inferior for 1 mana, get rid of Atraxa, or we can make the cool play of bouncing the Fate's Fetters. And then Chain Lightning my opponents. Attack. And Chain Lightning again. Alright, sweet. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have a Demilich in hand. Double Treasure Cruise, not ideal to have in our opener. So this one is definitely on the weaker side. No fetch land to fill the graveyard for Delve. I think we can do better. Okay, this hand is just missing a Faithless Looting to discard double Phoenix. 1 card has to go, might be the Treasure Cruise. And then, yeah, let's ponder. And then we're mostly looking for looting. Could keep a Thought Scour just to mill the next 2 cards, basically. So that if we eventually find a Treasure Cruise, it's going to be more realistic to cast. But depending on the matchup, I might want a Deem Inferior. Opponent blue-green with a Noble Hierarch, okay. Yeah, I'll stick to the plan, mill myself. Take a draw and a ponder. Alright, so we'll ponder and then hope to find a looting. A lightning axe is not the worst, but the problem is then I'm drawing 2 lands as well. So I think we shuffle. Find a Noxious Revival. Okay. So I can think about what to put back, if anything. Can do it in upkeep, so we get another discount on the Lich. And then maybe go for a ponder and look for looting once again. Not sure which deck our opponent is playing yet. Unctus, okay. Could be Nadu. Unctus, a way to target your creatures for free. Although is Nadu even legal in Historic? Might be the nerfed version. So I'll take my untap. A revival back. Ponder. Undraw it. Cast it. And a Manamorphose has to be good enough into Treasure Cruise. Let's see, can I consider also? I guess I can. Manamorphose, consider Treasure Cruise. Although I might be better off, let's see, 3, 4, 5. This is about to be 6. I don't think we need the consider first, in case Treasure Cruise still draws into something better. Like, of course, looting would be ideal. But yeah, this seems like a good order. So then we want blue-red still, even though we know about to consider. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And hope there's a looting. There is not. Okay, still get a free Lich. Could have been double Phoenix as well. So we're recovering from our mulligan. But we'll see what our opponent can come up with here. It's gonna be a Loki. I guess that's also a combo with Unctus. Can target stuff to draw a card. And now Noble can loot thanks to Unctus's ability. And gets rid of a starting town for now Birds of Paradise. Okay, I'll take my draw. It's another land, so really hoping for some action. And wow, that's another land. So the floodgates are open. I think the Lich still attacks, and then I can play the Consider, hopefully finding a Lightning Axe or some other removal spell I can cast, so I'll keep up an extra mana. Do not have the mana for Treasure Cruise. Another Prismatic Vista gone, and we draw another one. Well, this is getting pretty silly. Opponent could technically double block, but they're not going to. Well, I would be surprised if we live to tell the tale here. So Unctus targets the birds. They are losing a lot of life to this ability, but presumably they're in a position to combo off. The bird is gonna make a blue mana and draw discard. So does the Noble. And they had an Otawara, so now a Kiora's Follower, maybe a way to go infinite. If they have Shang-Chi, which they can maybe tutor up with a Formidable Speaker. But they do not have the mana to cast it here. It's going to be Nadu instead, also makes sense. Alright, so we might still get a turn here somehow. Alright, there we go. Kick things off with a Faithless Looting. Discard double Phoenix. Cast a Consider. Manamorphose is good enough. So now we're finally seeing the results. And then we can still Lightning Axe Unctus if we'd like. Cast a Chain Lightning, going face. But yeah, just getting back double Phoenix is gonna suffice, and our opponent scoops it up. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have a hand with a good mix of interaction. Manamorphose and Revival can set up some explosive starts, but we are missing the creatures to pair with them. So it's definitely not a perfect hand, but I'll give it a shot. Against creature decks we have Chain Lightning. Against Reanimator, Noxious Revival can also be a hate card. For now, maybe start with Island. That way if I draw Ponder, I can cast it and still shuffle after without dealing myself damage. Opponent with a Sunbaked Canyon, and now Mother of Runes, so maybe an Aura strategy. So definitely worth using the Chain Lightning, and I'll fetch a Mountain to save myself some damage here. So next turn we could Deem Inferior if necessary. Could also Revival back the Chain Lightning. Another Mother of Runes. And a Canvas Outfitter, so it's actually an equipment deck. Alright, that's gonna make things trickier. Colossus Hammer, equipping for 1 mana, can hit like a truck. So what's my response? Instinct is still to take out the Mother of Runes. Maybe Deem Inferior is a good enough answer, and I don't need to get back Chain Lightning. Yeah, I was hoping to draw a win condition. So if I Manamorphose first, I can still Deem Inferior for 2 mana. Let's go blue-red. Find a Consider. So could also sack the Islet, and then Deem Inferior for 1 mana. And then save the Consider to maybe power up something next turn. Although Deem Inferior would also be a good answer to a creature that's already equipped with Colossus Hammer, but then I guess we can Revival it back. So I don't hate the Islet. Cast Deem Inferior for a single blue. And then Treasure Cruise next turn is maybe an option as well. So send Mother of Runes packing. Opponent is holding priority, so maybe they have some free spell they can cast. Not sure what that would be in this spot. Alright, so let's see if they've got a Colossus Hammer in hand. They do have an Inkmoth Nexus, and yeah, there's a 1 mana to equip Colossus Hammer thanks to the Outfitter. So that's going to be a problem. And the Inkmoth can immediately deal 10 Infect to win the game. For now, take 12. So we may need to Deem Inferior the Hammer instead of the Outfitter. Problem being it's still perpetually gonna cost 1 to equip, so eventually they'll redraw it. And then I'm gonna be in trouble. But for now it's the only play that keeps me alive, I think. So I may as well take my turn, so we cast an extra spell to discount a Lich. And get back Deem Inferior. Down to 5 we go. So the regular damage is also gonna matter here. Possible they have a Surgical Extraction, but then I would have expected them to use it already. So then I can Consider and then still Deem Inferior after, or we can Treasure Cruise by using the fetch. And then Deem Inferior for single blue again. Alright, let's see what happens. Couple Manamorphose. Target the Hammer. Could still die to a different pump spell on the Outfitter. If I also have a Thought Scour, I could mill the Hammer so they don't redraw it. Okay, so we'll see if we get to survive for another turn. With double Manamorphose, we can maybe set up a free Demilich. Opponents just got the Super Soldier Serum, giving +2/+2, so they can just attack for lethal here. Alright, GG's. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing a Lurrus deck, so more likely to be the Aura strategy. In which case we want interaction. This hand is lacking in that department, but I don't think it's bad enough to mulligan. On the play with a Manamorphose, there's a chance we can maybe play a pair of Demiliches on turn 3, as long as the looting finds more lanes. Okay, Chain Lightning is good. I like the Vista. So maybe get rid of looting Treasure Cruise, since we're not really filling the graveyard super quickly for the Treasure Cruise. And then, yeah, hope for a third lanes. Our opponent with turn 1 Mountain into a Strike Ridge. So what could this be? Maybe this is Ruby Storm, I guess would still make sense. We found a Ponder. And let's see here. I guess another Demilich is not the worst idea. Definitely want to draw the Steam Vents first. So, yeah, I guess this is fine. We have Chain Lightning for Ral. I do not have an answer to Ruby Medallion, if that shows up instead. But draw the Steam Vents. Could still shuffle away the Demilich, or I can draw it and then shuffle next turn to get rid of the Phoenix, so I don't draw into it with a Manamorphose. Yeah, in that case I may as well just play tapped Steam Vents. So prefer seeing Ral over a Ruby Medallion. Small chance they can fully combo off here, but it's just going to be Impulse finding another Strike It Rich. So we're not in danger of dying just yet. Now, I guess what we still need is another spell to actually be able to play the Demilich. So if I shuffle here, of course we get rid of the Phoenix. I can still flashback looting to make it more likely that next turn I can play Triple Lich. Or I can just Manamorphose and hope that the next card is a spell I can cast. But if it's not, then I may not be able to play the Demilich for quite some time. I think against Storm I don't have time to sit around and wait. So let's just go for it. Go blue-red. And a Treasure Cruise is perfect. So I can still Chain Lightning, cast a 1-mana Cruise. And Demon Inferior on the Treasure is fine, so I can play a triple Demilich. Okay, and we've got a clock. And then at the very least we can get back a Demon Inferior and cast it next turn. So we can deal with a Ruby Medallion, a Ral, or even a Treasure Token. But yeah, could have worked out poorly if we Manamorphose into a land. And then we come to a Screeching Halt. I guess we can still flash back the looting in that case to set ourselves up for turn 4. But yeah, turn 3, triple Demilich will get it done. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have a functional hand, good mix of interaction and card draw. Hopefully our opponent is playing a couple of creatures for us to remove. Otherwise we might struggle to cast the Axe and discard the Phoenix. Turn 1 likely considering. Opponent with a Tamio, perfect target for Chain Lightning and Lightning Axe. So a blue deck, could be artifacts, could be something else. Treasure Cruise number 2, I'll probably keep in the graveyard to make the first one more castable. And a Noxious Revival. So very close to actually getting back a Phoenix right now. Just don't have the extra red mana to cast both spells. So we'll save that for next turn, and then for now, maybe I should just make sure I discard the Phoenix. Can always Chain Lightning face if they don't present another target. Although you could make an argument that the instant speed is more valuable. So I can upkeep Noxious Revival to maybe get back like a Consider. Opponent's got a Thoughtseize. So we'll let that go. They might go for the Treasure Cruise here, in which case I can always Noxious Revival one back. So it is blue-black mid-range, more of a controlling deck. Often see Lurrus as companion, so I wonder what creatures they're playing that are more expensive. Maybe Barrow-Goyf. Opponent does indeed take the Treasure Cruise, has another Tameo. So I think this will work out just fine. So take our turn, Noxious Revival back. I guess it still has to be Consider, since I cannot cast a Treasure Cruise right now. Or can I? So I would add a Revival to the graveyard to remove a Treasure Cruise, and then cast Chain Lightning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, we would still be one card short, unless I want to exile the Phoenix, which kind of defeats the purpose. So yeah, I think we still go for the Noxious Revival here to get the Phoenix going. Target Consider. And draw the Consider. And then can kick things off with a Chain Lightning. Cast a Consider. And then don't need the Mountain anymore. Draw a Demilich. So very close to casting a free Demilich as well. Alright, so we got a Phoenix in play. My hand's not perfect, but we've got some pressure. Opponent has a Shoot the Sheriff. That's where our opponent thought seizing the Treasure Cruise made a lot of sense, since now we don't have that burst of card draw anymore. Demilich pretty likely to get counterspelled, but can still maybe get it back out of the graveyard later. Yep. So yeah, we'll just try and get it back here. So one Treasure Cruise can go, don't need Noxious Revival or Lightning Axe. And maybe get rid of a Chain Lightning since we have the Lightning Axe and Demon Inferior as removal. Alright, that resolves for now. Maybe they've got Force of Negation in hand. Baleful Strix is a good one. And they also had a Fatal Push now with Revolt enabled. Okay, so can kick things off with Manamorphose, which may get countered. They know about the Demon Inferior. Yeah. So then I'm not in a hurry to Lightning Axe the Baleful Strix. Okay, so still haven't figured out why they don't have Lurrus as companion. Psychic Frog you can also run with Lurrus. Definitely a fine target for a Lightning Axe. And can kick things off with a Ponder, which will still discount the Demilich. Alrighty, so draw the Phoenix, discard it with Lightning Axe. Treasure Cruise is a good follow-up. So I like all of these. So then I actually might wanna Demon Inferior the Frog and Axe the Strix, since I don't want them replaying the Strix in a few turns. And then Lightning Axe the Strix, discard Phoenix, get two of them back. Won't be able to play the Lich, but that doesn't matter. And there we go, even get to rank up. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We have what looks like a functional hand, maybe missing some interaction, but can deem inferior something. Turn on Mother of Runes is annoying, but Chain Lightning was the perfect top deck before they can keep up the protection. And then we can Ponder Shuffle next turn. Noxious Revival, a way to discount the Demilich for free. And can also Revival back the Chain Lightning to answer another Mother of Runes. Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike that, even though it makes it harder to then play the Lich in a future turn. Can still take my draw step first. And then Revival. That way I could technically still draw Arclight Phoenix with a looting. And then be able to discard it and get it back since we've cast 3 spells. So I could still decide to Ponder. Or I can, as I mentioned, go for the looting play to try and spike Arclight Phoenix. Yeah, maybe a looting is fine. Alright, found a Lightning Axe, more removals, decent. So then, still gonna go for Chain Lightning. Do have to get rid of 2 cards. The Deem Inferior could be awkward, although it is good alongside Ponder. Maybe I just discard the Lich and then plan to cast it out of the graveyard instead, since we don't have a Treasure Cruise. So maybe a Lightning Axe still goes, since I don't have a Phoenix to discard. And then try to use Ponder plus Deem Inferior as our next removal option. Alright. So got very close to playing Demilich. Would have needed a Mana Morphos as well. Draw another Chain Lightning. Opponent's still stuck on 1 land. Also maybe have to watch out for Mana Tithe if this is more of a mono-white humans deck. Since they're not running Lurrus as companion, so it's not likely to be the Boros Aura deck, but could be mono-white humans. So we'll kick things off with a Ponder. And yeah, it does seem like they might have a Mana Tithe. Mana Morphos is good. The rest, not so much. So I will decline to shuffle, and then still shuffle with the Prismatic Vista. But then I'm not really incentivized to try and go for the Demilich now, if we need to play around the Mana Tithe. But then I will be shuffling with Prismatic Vista. Probably should have kept Island on top instead of Spire Bluff if I decide not to shuffle, if I want the extra land. So now 2 mana, could also see Thalia to tax or non-creature spells. And that's another must answer. Yep. Okay. So then I will still shuffle. And draw a land. So it's 2 mana for Chain Lightning, and then 2 mana for Mana Morphos. So then this will get a 2 mana discount, so then I can still cast it. Yeah, I guess that's fine. So Mana Morphos for blue-blue. Cast a Demilich. And what do we want to keep? Probably the Ponder, Chain Lightning, maybe Mana Morphos. The looting, I guess, with Flashback is also quite valuable. I'll keep the Ponder, since we have a fetch in hand as well. Alright, we'll see if the Demilich gets answered. Do have a Deem Inferior as another removal spell for an opposing creature, if they have like a Brutal Cathar. It's going to be a Voice of Victory, forcing spells in my turn, but that's easy pickings for Chain Lightning. So, can also sack the Islet to draw, or we can flashback a looting here. I guess I don't hate flashback looting. Deem Inferior, the Voice, and then we can Ponder. I mean, I can also Ponder first. Not in a hurry unless we're looking for Arclight Phoenix to get back this turn, which is a reason to cast a bunch of spells before attacking. But now let's just attack first. Could also just make more sense to use a Chain Lightning while I get the chance. Now let's still Ponder. I want to find more threats. And then Thought Scour, just a way to fill the graveyard some more, seems acceptable. So I can Thought Scour myself, and then Demon Inferior for 1 mana. And then even play another Demilich. And our opponent is not going to be necessarily happy to redraw the voice, since they're probably looking for more lands. And then I'll fetch, should have an island left here. Okay, so now we have double Demilich. Still have that Chain Lightning in the graveyard. Suspect our opponent is holding at least 1 mana tithe. And yeah, they might just be too far behind here. Alright, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with what looks to be a keepable hand. Between Manamorphose and Noxious Revival, we can set up a very early Demilich. For now, we don't know what we're up against yet, so I'll just keep up Thought Scour. Save the fetch in case we draw a Ponder to get a shuffle effect. And a Zhalfern Void, Scrying 1. So this might be some sort of colorless Storm deck with One Ring and Paradox Engine. So we just want to be as fast as possible, since we don't have much in the way of disruption. So, yeah, I mean, I could already get back an Arclight Phoenix on turn 2 by going Manamorphose, Revival, Looting. Let's see, can I also cast a Demilich? So this is 1 spell, 2 spells. A Looting I could cast twice, technically. How does this work? So we start with Manamorphose, make, let's say, red-red. Then could also go blue-red, I guess, and then Revival back the Thought Scour. And then cast a Looting. So then I'll have cast 4 spells, so we can play free Lich. So yeah, I guess that works for me. So get an island. Start with Manamorphose. Could also Revival first. I'll start with Manamorphose. See what we draw, and then blue-red is fine. So I do not want to Revival back the Manamorphose since I wouldn't be able to cast it, but a Thought Scour's fine. Cast a Looting. Discard Phoenix and 1 Treasure Cruise. And then I can still maybe hope to mill another Phoenix here with the Thought Scour. Well, another Lich isn't bad. So turn 2, double Demilich and Arclight Phoenix. Opponent seems to have a response, maybe a Dismember could work here for 1 colorless. But for now, Demilich hits the table, get back Arclights, and hit for 3. So I mean, we asked for a fast hand, and this certainly delivered. Next turn we can easily Treasure Cruise, even off Demilich if we'd like. There's one in the graveyard. Another Zhalfern Void, expecting a 2-mana ramp card here. A Mind Stone. So it is possible for them to win the game next turn with Semblance Anvil discounting artifacts and then going off. At the very least they could get a One Ring on the battlefield to prevent damage. Yeah, I guess we want to find Demon Inferior to bounce the Mind Stone if possible. So then I can start by attacking and then casting a free Treasure Cruise out of the graveyard with a Demilich. Can also maybe Chain Lightning my opponents, but yeah, opponent's just way too far behind and scoops it up. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We have double Manamorphose, so it could be quite exciting if we draw a Demilich. Well, let's try it. Opponent with Faithless Looting, so it's a Reanimator deck. We do have the Noxious Revival in hand, so if they try and go for the Reanimation spell on turn 2, we can actually disrupt them. I've got my own Looting. I think I still consider first Ashen Rider. We could also answer with a Lightning Axe for what it's worth. And now they could also have an Izzet charm available. Ponder seems good enough to keep. Take my turn, Arclight to draw. So I could go double mana Morphos, discard Arclight and get it back already. It's worth a shot. So go blue-red. A mana Morphos again. Again blue-red. So I can first ponder for maybe another Phoenix and then looting to discard another. Or I can just go red-red, that probably makes more sense in case they counter one of the lootings. I can still cast the other, since we have two in hand. Alright, so Spire Bluff I'll keep, discard Phoenix. Don't think Lightning Axe is going to be all that useful, unless we have two of them to answer something like a Wrath and Mikey. So that can go. And I may as well looting again to maybe discard another Phoenix here. Alright, or cast a free Lich. So then, what do I get rid of? One Ponder at least, maybe both. Since we don't have a shuffle effect left, unless we count the Thought Scour, maybe it's better than a Consider. Alright, so go to combat. Get back a Phoenix. Cast a Demilich, and still have that Noxious Revival, which is going to be key. Because yeah, without the Noxious Revival, I wouldn't be feeling great here. Demilich resolves. And we might see them draw discard or surveil. But yeah, having free interaction to disrupt it is key. And yeah, there's a Necromancy. So let's just read this carefully. It still targets something, I believe. There's a lot of text here. Yeah, put target creature card. Was just making sure, in case there was some awkward wording that meant it maybe didn't target anything specifically. So, pay 2 life, target Ashen Rider. And now Necromancy didn't do anything. Alright, so Demilich can attack and get back. Well, Noxious Revival, I guess, can always target their Saint Elenda or Wrath and Mikey. But then there's still the other target to worry about in case they have more reanimation spells. So that wouldn't be incredibly helpful. So yeah, what's the plan? I want to look for something like a Treasure Cruise, try and draw another Noxious Revival. For now, I can maybe start by Thought Scouring myself in the hopes of finding another Arclight Phoenix. Demilich is nice. So then now I can attack, cast that Treasure Cruise, and take it from there. And draw 3 seems good. Alright, opponent has seen enough, so I guess they did not have another reanimation spell in hand necessarily to do it all over again, and yeah, we're just too far ahead here. So yeah, we got to see this Izzet Phoenix deck in action, and it remains a staple in Historic for good reason. The deck can be quite explosive, especially with Mana Morphos setting up an early Arclight Phoenix or Demilich, but at the same time it also has a lot of interaction for the various decks in the format, and also has a lot of card draw, so it can usually find whatever it needs in every single matchup. The deck isn't all that easy to hate out, but there are of course answers, mainly in the form of 2 mana white enchantments, thinking of Rest in Peace to exile all cards from graveyard, will make it impossible to get back an Arclight Phoenix or maybe cast a Treasure Cruise, although Demilich from hand I guess is still an option, but especially High Noon on turn 2 can be a nightmare to deal with, because with only 1 spell per turn you're never going to get back the Phoenix, and you're only ever going to cast a Demilich for 4 mana, which the deck can usually handle. So yeah, those are the main cards you don't want to see when playing the Phoenix deck. And then of course, if your opponent is off to a particularly explosive start and you don't have the right interaction, it can still fall apart, and sometimes you will draw the wrong half of your deck, where you maybe draw too many creatures and not enough enablers, or all the enablers and no payoffs. That will also happen occasionally, but the deck has enough cantrips where that's unlikely to happen. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.